I was on my way to my girlfriend's house to meet her family. Turns out, her entire family was made up of my ex-girlfriends. Her older sister, her younger sister, her aunt, even her mom. Every single one of them was a goddess I used to worship. Now that I've stopped, they're the ones getting desperate. My girlfriend's pigtail-wearing younger sister tugged at the corner of my shirt. I just turned 18. Can you date me instead, brother-in-law? My girlfriend's older sister, her face like ice, pinned me against the wall. If you break up with my sister, she hissed, then from now on, you'll be the one in charge of us. My girlfriend's wealthy mother pulled out a drawer full of property deeds and car keys, throwing them at me. $30 million. Leave my daughter and be with me. Here I am, at my girlfriend's house, surrounded by my exes. Someone please just kill me. I really don't want to live anymore. Don't be nervous. My family is really nice. I'm sure they'll love you. As soon as we got out of the car, Rose noticed my back was soaked with sweat and gave me a reassuring kiss. I just mumbled an faking composure. Inside, I was panicking like crazy. To be perfectly honest, I was a professional sycophant. Before this, I was juggling 5 goddesses, a wealthy older woman, a girl with pigtails, a sophisticated intellectual with glasses, a manipulative bombshell, and the sweet, innocent girl, Rose. Last night, I got drunk and foolishly accepted Rose's confession, agreeing to meet her family over the holidays. I'd heard she and her sisters were all orphans adopted by a wealthy widow. The thought of being surrounded by women in her house was already making my skin crawl. So, I stayed up all night, sending the other for a simple message, "Goodbye. I'm done fawning over you." Then I blocked and deleted their numbers, feeling a huge sense of relief. My phone buzzed again. I snuck a look, and sure enough, it was the pigtail girl, sending tearful messages begging me not to delete her. What a psycho. When I worshipped the ground she walked on, she could barely give me the time of day. Now that I've stopped, she won't leave me alone. I quickly shut my phone off. "Come on, my family's eager to meet you," Rose said, taking my hand and knocking on the door of the mansion. "Oh, by the way, are there any special customs for a first meeting? Like, should I bow or something? Do I call her Mrs. Miller or—" Before I could finish, a woman opened the door, and Rose chirped, "Mom." I forced a smile and looked up. The world instantly went dark, my legs gave out, and I collapsed to my knees with a thud. Rose stared, stunned for a second, before rushing to pull me up. "Mike, we're not formal here. You don't have to bow like that." My legs felt like they were glued to the floor. I kept my head down, not even thinking about getting up. I honestly felt like kowtowing to her. Victoria Miller. Wasn't this the wealthy goddess I had just been worshipping? My goddess was my current girlfriend's mother? As the resident sycophant, I really didn't want to be alive right now. "Mom, Mike is just really shy. He's just nervous meeting you for the first time, so please don't mind him," Rose explained to her mother after failing to pull me to my feet. "Oh, Mike, is it? If you hadn't told me, I would have thought his name was Kevin," Victoria said, and I could practically hear her grinding her teeth. "That's right. The fake name I'd given her was Kevin. When you're out there playing the part of the devoted admirer, you never use your real name. Mike, why can't you look up? Are you too ashamed to be seen? Victoria is native. My neck is acting up. I need to see a doctor." "Then get up first. My athlete's foot is flaring up. I can't get up. I need to see a doctor." Rose called Dr. Evans to come over and take a look at Mr. Johnson here. Left with no choice, I shakily climbed to my feet. Rose moved to help me, but her mother shot her a look that could kill, and she froze. This woman's possessiveness was off the charts. Once, at a dinner party, a female manager glanced at my ass a couple of times. She was fired that same night. I heard she even got roughed up on her way home before Victoria threw $2 million at her and told her to get out of Chicago for good. "Hello, Mrs. Miller," I said, my voice cracking. "We're all family now. No need to be so formal," she purred. "Call me Mom." She looked to be in her early 30s, leaning against the doorframe with a smile playing on her lips, but her sharp eyes looked like they wanted to murder me. She thoughtfully reached out with a perfectly manicured hand and wiped a smudge of Rose's lipstick from my face. Then, her fingernails dug viciously into my skin. "See, Mike? I told you my family would love you." Rose was still beaming like a happy-go-lucky golden retriever. "Don't be nervous. Just do as Mom says." I was begging her internally, "Please, for the love of God, shut up." "Mom," I squeaked out. "Victoria nadie, satisfaz." Rose grinned like a goofy puppy. Just then, the sound of something smashing echoed from inside the house, followed by a girl's frantic sobbing. "Is that Lily?" Rose asked, surprised. "What's she crying about?" "She got played by some guy." As Victoria said this, she seemed to remember something, and her expression soured. "That sister of mine is so boy crazy," Rose said, shaking her head. How much money did she get scammed out of this time? None this time. Victoria slammed a fist against the doorframe. But I'd rather he took her money. This is a complete disgrace. What? She was in an online thing with some guy for a few months. Last night, he told her he was in his 40s, divorced with 3 kids. My heart skipped a beat. That sounded exactly like the excuse I made up to break up with the pigtail girl last night. Rose offered an awkward reassurance. Well, Lily's still young. It's understandable she'd get tricked by some creepy old guy. Now that she knows the truth, she'll cry for a couple of days and get over it. Don't be so angry, Mom. Standing right there, the creepy old guy in question was starting to panic. She was the one who was constantly looking down on me while posting pictures on Facebook with a different guy every day. So how am I suddenly the bad guy here? Still, it was mostly an online thing. The name I gave her was completely fake, and she never got a clear look at my face, so I should be in the clear. I started to relax. You're being naive. She's hired every private investigator in the state to track that guy down, and it looks like they've already narrowed it down to our neighborhood. Victoria's fist tightened. Good. Let them find him. After he's dragged our family's name through the mud, I'll personally sell that old creep to a cartel in Mexico. The old creep promptly fell to his knees again. Rose rushed over in a panic. Mike, what's wrong now? What does it hurt? With tears streaming down my face, I whimpered. My kidneys. It's my kidneys. Rose ran off to ask their French chef to make me some roasted lamb kidneys, citing the old, you are what you eat logic. She tried to help me up, but another glare from Victoria stopped her in her tracks. My mom can be a little intense. Don't take it personally, Rose whispered. But she really likes you. I've never seen her smile this much. Please, I begged silently, just stop talking. That was the exact same smile she had on her face right before she had that guy beaten and sent to the hospital. I saw it with my own eyes. I wanted to run, but there was no escape, because Victoria had closed the front door and I heard the deadbolt click into place. It was obvious she had no intention of letting me leave alive. Her face was a frozen mask as she walked beside me, her eyes constantly darting towards my rear end. I'd recently had surgery for hemorrhoids, so I was walking a little funny. It had been a while since I'd worked out, and my muscles had gotten a bit soft. And right, she always did like men who were in shape. To make sure I maintained my abs and a firm backside, she would chew me out for 2 weeks straight if I so much as snuck a piece of cake. Whenever she took me to a gala, she'd make me try on dozens of suits, only to end up with a scowl and a dismissive, fine, I guess that will have to do. She had a bit of a Miss Sanders streak. Of course, I'd never say that to her face. She paid me way too much. But wait a minute, seeing me out of shape like this, shouldn't she be disgusted? Why were her eyes getting red? Before I could process it, a vase came flying from the living room straight at my head. Perfect. This was my chance to play dead and get out of this. I leaned into it, ready for impact, but Victoria moved faster, shielding me with her own body as the vase shattered against her forehead. Damn, that protective, future mother-in-law instinct. Thinking of playing dead, Victoria whispered, her breath warm against my ear. We'll settle this tonight. Then, ignoring the swelling red mark on her forehead, she stormed into the living room, her face a mask of fury. She yelled at the sobbing girl, "Are you done yet? Haven't you embarrassed this family enough?" The girl was on the floor, crying and thrashing, completely ignoring Victoria. "I don't care. I'm going to be with my teddy bear forever. Let me out of here. I have to find him." Victoria, seething, glanced around before yanking the leather belt from my pants and wrapping it around her hand. "Say that one more time. I dare you." Before she could finish, the belt cracked against her skin. A long, red welt instantly appeared on her porcelain white cheek. "You might as well kill me, because otherwise I will never stop looking for my teddy bear." The girl looked so sweet and innocent, but she was unbelievably stubborn. "Fine, get out. Get the hell out of my house right now." Victoria roared, a furious smile on her face as she pointed to the door. "If you walk out that door today, you are no longer my daughter." My heart froze. If she let her go out with all those PIS on the case, what if they actually found me? On second thought, maybe you should just kill her. Seeing the girl, Lily, zombie walk towards the door, I quickly ran to block her path. "Lily, right? Listen to your brother-in-law for a second. Have you ever considered that maybe he's really ugly, and that's why he's afraid to meet you? I don't care. I like ugly guys. Oh, well, I can introduce you to someone even uglier later. I don't care. He's the ugliest, and he's the one I want." I smiled, desperately wanted to ask Victoria to give her a few more whacks with the belt. But then she looked up at me, her round face streaked with tears, her big eyes red and swollen. She looked like a sad little puppy. The bright red mark on her otherwise flawless cheek just made her look even more pitiful. My heart softened. Based on my years of experience as a professional admirer, I knew you couldn't reason with a lovesick girl like this by yelling or hitting her. You had to coax her. He suddenly tells you he's divorced with 3 kids. Have you ever stopped to think why he might have said that? I gently ruffled her hair. He must be going through something difficult. Do you have any idea how much pressure you're putting on him by sicking the entire world on him? So much pressure that I literally want to die. So just give him some time. Trust me, once he's sorted things out, he'll come back for you. Yeah, right? Give me a few more days, and I'll change my identity, start a new life, maybe even join a monastery to escape this coven of ex-goddesses. Lily seemed to be listening. She obediently nuzzled her head against my hand like a little puppy. Brother-in-law, I feel so much better after talking to you. She tilted her head up, wiping her teary eyes. It feels just like I'm talking to my teddy bear. Whoa, girl, you can't be saying things like that. Okay, I'll listen to you. I'll wait a few days before I look for teddy bear again. I breathed a massive sigh of relief, wanting to pull her into a hug. So, while I'm waiting, can you be my boyfriend, brother-in-law? Me? Victoria. Rose? My mind went completely blank. I walked over to Victoria and took a deep breath. Let me borrow that belt. I swear I'll beat the lovesick stupid out of her myself. In the end, I couldn't bring myself to do it. Victoria had someone bring a rope, intending to tie Lily up to keep her from running off. They held her down on the floor as she struggled, red marks already forming on her wrists and ankles. She looked pathetic. I'll do it, I said, feeling a pang of pity. The moment she heard my voice, she stopped struggling. She let me tie the ropes without any resistance. Mike, she whispered, looking up at me. Her tear-filled eyes were like a misty morning, making her look like a drenched kitten. It was just like the night we first met. That night, she was sitting on the railing of a bridge over the dark, churning river. She held a lighter, awkwardly trying to light the cigarette between her lips. The wind was strong, and she failed again and again. The brief flare of the lighter illuminated her youthful face, and I could see huge tears rolling down her cheeks. She looked like a broken porcelain doll. That glimpse of vulnerability stirred something in me. Need a light? I asked, stopping in front of her and lighting my own cigarette. There was a soft rustling in the dark, and her face, a pale blur, moved closer. She smelled sweet. It reminded me of the strawberry milk I drank as a kid. With the cigarette dangling from my lips, I leaned in and touched the glowing tip of mine to the end of hers. I couldn't see her face clearly in the dark, but I could feel the heat radiating from her skin. She was blushing. Breathe in, I told her. She was clearly new to this because she just stayed there, frozen, for a long moment. When she finally came to her senses, she took a panicked drag and immediately dissolved into a coughing fit, nearly toppling off the railing into the river below. I grabbed her by the waist and pulled her back to safety. Trying to take a swim? I asked. Her shoes were sitting on the pavement, and her bare feet were red with cold. The guy I like, he's getting married, she mumbled through sobs. Not my problem. I cut her off. Some people are pushed to the brink by life itself, while others who have everything want to die over some stupid crush. I'll never understand it. If you're going to jump, you do it like this. I climbed onto the railing and dove in. The winter water was bone-chillingly cold. She freaked out. What? Why did you jump? After a long hesitation, I heard another splash. She was still yelling, "Don't worry, I'm coming to save you. Glub, glub, glub." Seriously? You can't even swim? I was just trying to scare her a little. I never thought she'd actually jump in after me. As I watched her sink beneath the surface, I sighed and swam toward her. A drowning person is more dangerous than any current. I watched her flail wildly, waited for an opening, and then punched her squarely in the temple. She went still and began to sink like a stone. I dove down and grabbed her, the dead weight of her body nearly pulling me under with her. But the thought of ending up in the tabloids with this idiot under a headline like "Lovesick Teens in Midnight Suicide Pact" gave me the strength to drag her to the riverbank. I sighed, ready to leave her there, but then I heard her mumbling in her sleep. "Don't worry, I'm coming to save you." In the end, I caved and called 911 for her. The operator asked if she had any other injuries besides the near drowning. I hesitated for a long moment before saying, "I think her right temple is naturally a little more swollen than her left." She was soaked to the bone, her body shivering in the cold wind. I covered her with her own jacket and held her to try and keep her warm. She instinctively snuggled closer. She clung to me like a little octopus. When I finally heard the distant wail of a siren, I gently pushed her away. I also slipped her wallet into my pocket. Payment for services rendered. Now we were even. Then I walked away. Who knew she would get so attached? She somehow got my number from the paramedics and started calling me nonstop. She insisted I call her Lily, and it was always my hero this and my hero that, constantly asking to take me out to dinner to thank me. I never agreed, of course. What if she asked for her money back? When she saw I was ignoring her, she started sending me thousands of dollars through Venmo, saying all I had to do was talk to her. I didn't accept it. I love money, but I don't take it from clueless kids. That only made her clingier. She said I was different from all the other guys she knew, that they were only nice to her when she was paying them. So she was basically a walking, talking, suicidal ATM. If I ignored her, she'd call me, sobbing her heart out. I thought it would be annoying as hell, but it turned out I discovered a new kink. How could someone's crying sound so pleasant? Listening to her cry felt like a kitten scratching at my heart, a strange, pleasant tickle. Even her endless rambling started to sound sweet. She told me how she was an orphan, how she was adopted, how everyone called her stupid, and how she could never measure up to her two older, non-biological sisters. She cried about how all her previous boyfriends had treated her like an idiot. A classic case of someone starved for affection. But damn, her tear-stained face really did something for me. Whatever. Better that she waste her time on a professional admirer like me than on some actual scumbag. At least I wouldn't drive her to jump off a bridge again. I was doing her a favor, really. You could even say I was saving a troubled youth, right? That's how I justified it to myself as I continued to listen with relish to her pathetic sobbing. But then she started dropping hints, testing the waters to see if I wanted to be her actual boyfriend. I never agreed, as if I'd give up my grand career as a professional sycophant for one lovesick girl. Hilarious. It seemed like she relapsed into her old habits, posting pictures on Facebook with this guy and that guy, even tagging me in them. It was bizarre. I'm not into that kind of thing. Thank God it was too dark that night for her to get a good look at my face. All right, that should hold you, I said, finishing with the ropes. I let out a long breath and stood up. That's when I saw Rose and Victoria staring at me, their expressions unreadable. Mike, that knot you tied is... Rose started, her face turning red. I instinctively looked down at the ropes on Lily's body, and my heart nearly stopped. Oh God, oh God, oh God. What the hell kind of knot did I just tie? Well, you've got some interesting hobbies, Victoria said with a cold smile, her eyes darting between me and Rose. Where did you learn to do that? Lady, please let me explain. From me, a voice as cold as ice cut through the tension. A woman stepped in from the hallway. She had a pair of gold-rimmed glasses perched on her straight nose and was holding a rolled-up canvas. She radiated an air of cool, intellectual sophistication. Aunt Evelyn, you're home late, Rose said, taking the woman's coat. Then she turned to me. This is my aunt, Dr. Evelyn Reed. She's a professor. She's heard all about you. And she said, hey, Mike, are you okay? You look pale. Pale? I wish the ground would open up and swallow me whole. As the woman approached, all I could do was stare at the floor and stammer. Hello? Professor Reed. My relationship with Professor Reed was unconventional. She was working on a series of paintings called Devotion. As luck would have it, she decided I was the perfect model and told me to just call her Professor. She paid incredibly well, and with her sophisticated demeanor, I reluctantly agreed. But she was the type of person to blame gravity for her own constipation. After 3 days of painting, she insisted the feeling wasn't right and forced me into a contract relationship with her. Naturally, being a man of principle, I refused. I'll double your pay. Whatever you say, darling. It was only a 6-month contract anyway. A man's got to make a living. There's no shame in that. Especially since I'd run away from home without a penny to my name and was surviving entirely on the contents of Lily's wallet. But then I drunkenly agreed to go home with Rose, which meant I had to break things off with Evelyn and terminate our contract. We're just not compatible, I had told her. Evelyn glanced at the trussed-up Lily on the floor and sneered at me. Happy now. My legs were shaking too much to form a response. Aunt Evelyn, you know Mike? Rose, the sweet summer child, lit up again. Oh, good. Now you don't have to be so nervous, Mike, since you know someone. Yeah, thanks a lot. What exactly did you teach him? Victoria demanded, her face grim. Why? You want to learn too? Evelyn retorted, her tone sharp. These two clearly didn't get along. It looked like they were about to throw down. A cat fight. This could be interesting. Now, stop fighting. What's a family got to argue about? A lazy, sing-song voice drifted from one of the bedrooms. The door creaked open, and the first thing I saw was a pair of bare feet. They were flawless, like they'd been carved from ivory by a master sculptor, with the perfect arch and delicate ankles. They were stunning. My eyes traveled up to a red silk robe, open at the front, revealing a pair of shapely calves. Finally, I saw her face. It was stunningly beautiful and alluring, her hair loosely pinned up. She looked like a siren who had stepped right out of a painting. I was filming nearby yesterday, so I crashed here for the night. I just woke up to all this shouting, she said, yawning. But as for this little situation, I think I can clear things up for Mike. I was already numb to the shock. But the moment I saw her, my stomach dropped. Isabella Miller. The most dangerous one of them all had arrived. Aunt Evelyn needed him for her art class, Isabella said, her eyes crinkling into a smile. They were doing a still life of a little piglet, you see, but it kept running around, so they had to tie it up. Mike was so clever. He helped out, didn't you? And there it was. She was starting her games. I never heard a single sincere compliment come out of her mouth. She was insulting me to my face, and all I could do was swallow my pride and nod. Mike and I are the closest, you know. He's just a little slow and not great with words, so you'll have to forgive him, Isabella said, draping an arm over my shoulder, her pale skin stark against my shirt. Instantly, the other women's gazes turned sharp and suspicious. Even Rose, who was always so sweet, looked unsettled. Isabella, you know Mike? He never mentioned you. Isabella let out a low, musical laugh, looking like a cunning fox. Oh, you'll have to ask Mike about that. Ask me? What was I supposed to say? That she'd found out I was seeing all of them at once and had been blackmailing me and treating me like her personal pet ever since? She was the only one I hadn't bothered making up a crazy breakup excuse for. For one, there was no point. I could never fool her. For another, I knew she never had any real feelings for me. I was just a toy she used for her own amusement. The surprising part was, when I told her I was breaking up with her, she just gave me a little smile and said, okay. So she'd known this was going to happen all along. I'm a fan of her work, I stammered, forcing an excuse. Luckily, the chef chose that exact moment to start bringing out the food. Grateful for the distraction, I hurried over to help the only person in the room I hadn't slept with, the chef, serve the dishes. Once the food was on the table, everyone took their seats. I was so nervous my hand was shaking as I picked up my fork. I silently went over every table manner I knew, not daring to reach for anything, just picking at the food directly in front of me. Is the food not to your liking? Victoria asked suddenly from beside me. No, it's all delicious. Then could you please stop taking food off my plate? Oh God, I'm so sorry. I'm just a little nervous. This felt like my last meal on death row. My family could be a bit intense. I bet Mike isn't used to this, is he? Isabella said, propping her chin on her hand, every little movement calculated and alluring. To me, she looked like the Grim Reaper. You know, Mike is so much more animated when we eat out together. I'm afraid he won't be able to adjust to this after he marries into the family. I wanted to shove a dinner roll in her mouth to shut her up. But don't be too hard on him, everyone. Mike is just innocent and naive. I mean, forget meeting the parents. Has he ever even really been in a relationship before? That's right. We're each other's first love, Rose said, looking at me with a shy smile. I said nothing. As expected, the moment she said that, 5 pairs of eyes locked onto me with laser-like intensity. I need to use the restroom. I blurted out, jumping to my feet. I was out of there. I bolted up the stairs to the bathroom, locked the door, and began seriously contemplating the logistics of flushing myself into the Pacific Ocean. But just as I'd given up on that plan and was lifting the heavy porcelain tank lid to knock myself unconscious, there was a knock at the door. The silhouette outside was perfectly composed, her hair and clothes so neat they looked like they'd been drawn with a ruler. I knew instantly who it was. Evelyn. Maybe I should just knock her out with the lid instead, I thought, staring at the tank lid. I took a deep breath and decided to lean into the persona I'd used for our breakup. If I could make her hate me enough, maybe she'd finally leave me alone. I opened the door. She slipped inside and slammed it shut behind her, immediately pressing me back against the wall. I grabbed her tie, gave a sharp tug, and spun us around, pinning her against the wall instead. I slammed one hand against the wall next to her head. A reverse cabinet. Can I help you? I asked, forcing my expression to remain neutral. I gave her tie another tug, pulling her face closer until we were eye to eye. A few strands of her perfectly styled hair came loose and fell across her forehead, betraying a flicker of panic in her eyes. What is the meaning of this? She asked. Her voice was still cool, but it trembled slightly. Interesting. What do you mean? What's the meaning? Wasn't I clear enough before? I smirked, tightening the knot of her tie until it was snug against her throat. We're not compatible. Do you understand? Her face was starting to flush, but she made no move to pull away. Did I agree to that? She asked, her expression serious. I was panicking internally. Lady, this is the part where you're supposed to shove me away, call me a psycho, and leave. Okay, I clearly wasn't selling hard enough. You seem to be confused. This isn't a negotiation. I was informing you that we're done. I hooked a thumb under her chin and tilted her head back, exposing the long, pale line of her throat. I let my pinky trail along her skin. Let me rephrase. This is an order. Understand, but our contract isn't over yet. So, name your price. What's the buyout? I sounded nonchalant, but inside I was terrified. Please, anything but money. That's a conversation I can't afford to have. Then you have to apologize to me, she whispered. Fina. I gave the tie one last, sharp tug, pulling her forward until our noses were touching. A deep blush spread across her cheeks, and her eyes grew hazy and unfocused. It was surprisingly alluring. I reached up and patted her head. All right, I'll apologize. On your knees. There. That had to be enough to make her slap me and storm out. But instead, her entire body seemed to go boneless, and she slid down the wall to the floor. The only thing holding her up was the tie, still clutched in my hand. Her glasses were crooked, and she stared up at me with a dazed, vacant expression. What the? Did I just unlock a new achievement? No way. Absolutely not. She must be about to pass out from lack of oxygen. I fumbled to loosen the tie and then bolted out of there without a second glance. Why did I suddenly feel like a scumbag who had just used and abandoned her? Mike, your face is so red, Rose said with concern as soon as I got back to the living room. I'm not feeling well. I think I need to lie down for a bit. Victoria was glaring daggers at me. Isabella was smiling that scheming smile of hers. And now Evelyn, who had stumbled out of the bathroom after me, was giving me a very strange look. If I didn't run now, I was a dead man. Are you sure you're okay? I can take you to my room to rest, Rose offered softly. And no, the other women shouted in perfect unison. The living room plunged into an awkward silence. There's a guest room at the end of the hall upstairs, Victoria finally announced. I felt like I'd just received a presidential pardon and practically ran for it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was forgetting something. It wasn't until I passed the sofa that I saw Lily, still tied up and motionless on the floor. She looked like an abandoned puppy. Oh, right. It made sense, I guess. Her mother looked down on her for not being as successful as her adopted sisters. Her sisters treated her like a stranger, and so, when it came time for dinner, everyone had completely forgotten about her. That's why she was so desperate for affection, like a drowning person grabbing onto any piece of driftwood that floated by. At least I hadn't taken anything from her. I was still saving a troubled youth, right? Yeah, that had to be it. I was just so on edge from the whole ordeal that I'd completely forgotten she was still tied up on the floor. I was good, wasn't I? She asked timidly, as if she were afraid of upsetting me. I sighed, knelt down to untie her, and then went upstairs to the guest room. I locked the door, determined not to open it for anyone, and hid in the room until late into the night. I figured everyone must be asleep by now, so I prepared to make my escape. But the second my hand touched the doorknob, a sharp knock made me jump. It's me, Victoria's voice said from the other side. I played dead. After 30 minutes of complete silence, I figured she was gone. I quietly unlocked the door and slowly pulled it open, only to come face to face with Victoria. Damn it, this was like something out of a horror movie. I used to be a stand-in for Victoria's late husband. Apparently, their marriage, which was arranged, had been an unhappy one. She had loved him, but he had never loved her back. Then she met me. I happened to look a bit like him, so she hired me to be his replacement. Every time we went out, she'd make me try on dozens of expensive suits, only to scowl and declare that every single one looked awful on me. She made me imitate his mannerisms, his smile, until my face ached from the effort. And still, she would slam her hand on the table and insist I wasn't getting it right. I think she was trying to reclaim some of the pride he had stripped from her, using me as her canvas. She was demanding, but she paid incredibly well. And honestly, that was her only flaw. When my grandmother needed money for surgery, the hospital bill was paid in full before I even had a chance to ask her for help. At parties, her hand would rest lightly on my waist, never touching my skin. The moment the event was over, she'd impatiently tell her driver to take me home. She never crossed any lines. Once, when some kids at my college were making fun of me for not having a mother, she showed up, pretended to be my mom, and donated an entire new library to the school. So, as she stood there in the doorway, her face dark and unreadable, I couldn't bring myself to just slam the door on her. She closed the door behind her and stood there, her hands behind her back, just staring at me in silence. Damn, so this is what it feels like to be scolded by a mommy figure. Does it still hurt? She asked suddenly. I asked you if it still hurts, she snapped, her voice laced with anger. I blinked. It took me a long moment to remember the excuse I'd given her when I broke up with her. I'm sorry, I'd said. I'm gay. No wonder she kept staring at my ass. Lady, I had hemorrhoid surgery. I wasn't on the receiving end of anything. But I couldn't tell her that. If she found out I'd lied to her with such a pathetic excuse, my death would be even more painful. It's fine, I stammered. Are you lying to Rose, too? Well, actually, I dug my toes into the carpet. She's a lesbian. Victoria stared at me, confused. It's a lavender marriage. You know, for appearances. She was silent for another long moment, her face growing colder and paler, like she'd just been pulled from a morgue. Ma'am, you're not about to hit me, are you? She suddenly raised her hand, and I flinched, covering my head. But all she did was gently tuck a stray piece of hair behind my ear. Her voice, when she spoke, was softer than I'd ever heard it. If you break up with Rose, I wouldn't mind having a marriage of convenience with you. My brain short-circuited. This was a little too progressive, even for me. Mike, I'm serious, she said, a desperate edge to her voice. I know I was hard on you before. It's just, I felt I was too old for you. I felt unworthy. Let me take you away from all this. We can go abroad. You can even bring your boyfriend. Okay, this was getting way out of hand. I wouldn't ask this of you if it were anyone else, Mike. You have to believe me. Anyone but Rose. She's the one person you can't be with. A knock at the door cut her off. The color drained from both our faces. I could already see the headlines tomorrow. Shocker. Man caught in midnight tryst with future mother-in-law. She frantically looked around the room, her eyes finally landing on the space under the bed. She put a finger to her lips, then quickly scrambled underneath it. I took a deep breath, rubbed my face, and opened the door. It was Lily. Her face was still stained with tears, and her eyes were red and puffy. She'd clearly been crying for a while. I didn't have time to appreciate the tragic beauty of it all. I pulled her inside, peeked out into the hallway to make sure the coast was clear, and then shut the door. So, what's up? I asked, subtly trying to smooth out the bedspread. Mike, I was just outside. I heard what you and my mom were talking about. My world tilted on its axis. So, the 3 kids, they're my mom's? She'd heard, but she clearly hadn't heard everything. And I know that you're the one who saved me that night. How the hell did you figure that out? Because no one else has ever been that nice to me. What are you, Sherlock Holmes? Stop making these insane logical leaps. There are plenty of nice guys in the world. It's okay. I don't mind if you become my dad. This is not a stepdaddy fanfiction. Daddy, please don't leave me behind. I want to go abroad with you. I'll be good, I promise. Why is she calling me that already? I wanted to give her a slap and show her some real fatherly love, but another knock, like the Grim Reaper at the door, echoed through the room. Get under there, I hissed, pointing to the bed. She looked down like a guilty child and obediently crawled under the bed. I thought I heard a faint, "Oh, Mom, you're here too." I opened the door. It was Evelyn. Not caring who saw, I yanked her into the room and slammed the door. I might have used a little too much force because she stumbled and fell onto the bed. At this point, I was in so deep. What was one more problem? Are you dense? I snarled. Wasn't I clear enough? Why are you following me around like a lost puppy? Evelyn, who had been pushing herself up, froze. Her normally stoic, intellectual face flushed a deep crimson. Was she angry? Good. Let her get angry. Maybe she'd hit me, get out of her system, and leave. I took a step forward and raised my hand. Are you going to get out? Or do I have to make you? Why did she suddenly look like I was offering her a reward? My hand hovered awkwardly in the air. I had no idea what to do. What is it? She whispered, her eyes, usually so sharp and clear, now hazy and unfocused. I started to panic. There were 2 other women under the bed. The atmosphere was already thick with tension when a voice piped up from underneath it. Mike, let me borrow your belt. I promise I'll kill this fucking pervert. Who's there? Evelyn gasped, startled. Just then, another knock sounded at the door, perfectly timed. Get under there. I grabbed Evelyn by her tie and shoved her under the bed. What are you all doing in here? And this time, the guest of honor was Rose. If you ask me, Rose was the only normal one in this entire bizarre family. Everything about our relationship had been completely, refreshingly ordinary. We met at the library, ran into each other a few times, and eventually started dating. It was a simple, normal relationship, the kind you could describe in a single sentence. The only thing that wasn't ordinary was the day my father found me at school. He cornered me at the campus gate, drunk, demanding money. He demanded to know where I got the money for my grandmother's medical bills, accusing me of selling my body. He made such a scene that the entire campus found out about my deadbeat, gambling addict father. Later, some students blocked me from entering my dorm, throwing a bucket of dirty water on me and telling me I didn't belong there. So when Rose ran up and reached for my hand, I pulled away. She was like a ray of sunshine on a winter day, and I was a rat struggling to survive in a sewer. I've never felt like I deserved anything good in this world. I'm filthy, I told her. She didn't offer any empty platitudes or promise to stand by me. She just picked up the now empty bucket, refilled it with dirty puddle water, and poured it over her own head. See, she said, water dripping from her hair. Now we're both a mess. Rose stepped into the room. Are you feeling any better? She asked, her expression as gentle and kind as always. I don't think I'd ever seen her look any other way. Much, much better. You've been acting a little strange today, Mike. After saying that, she just leaned quietly against the wall, not pressing the issue, just fiddling with the ring I'd given her. She was always like that. She never pushed me to talk about things I didn't want to. I decided, right then, to tell her everything, to confess that her entire family was composed of my exes. But before I could get a single word out, there was another knock at the door. Mike! It was Isabella. What did she want? Rose blinked. I should probably hide. We're not married, after all. It wouldn't look right for me to be in your room this late. And with that, she crawled under the bed. I was speechless. Oh, hey, you guys. Ahem. Couldn't sleep. Just getting some air. What a coincidence. Me too. Same here. At this point, there was no one left. When Isabella walked in, I didn't even bother closing the door. I was tempted to just point under the bed and tell her to go join the family reunion. Isabella's eyes swept across the seemingly empty room, a knowing smile on her face. Quite a party in here, she purred. Of course. Nothing ever got past her. Manipulative bitch, I muttered under my breath. She didn't seem to mind. She sauntered over to the bed, untied her hair, letting it cascade over her shoulders, and then lay down on her side. She propped her head up with one hand and patted the empty space beside her. Come on, Mike. See, my hemorrhoids are acting up. I can't. She laughed, a beautiful, radiant smile that didn't reach her mocking eyes. I'm just trying to be nice. Don't you want to get a little closer? Do you get some kind of sick pleasure out of messing with me? I scoffed. I could almost believe the others might have actual feelings for me. But her? She wasn't capable of liking anyone. Oh, it's more fun than you can imagine, she said, a slight smile on her lips as she toyed with a lock of her hair. After all, it's not every day I meet someone who's just like me. How are we alike? UP standing up too? I shot back. The whole situation had already blown up in my face, so what did I care about the blackmail material she had on me? Not exactly, she said. She hooked a long, pale finger under her eye and pulled the lid down, a wicked glint in her eye. I mean, you have the same eyes as I do. The eyes of someone who can't love. Her fingers tapped a light rhythm on the mattress. Have you ever once told her you love her? Or even that you like her? I was silent. She was right. I didn't know the first thing about love. My earliest memories were of my drunken father raising his fist to my mother. See how much Daddy loves you, he'd say. To me, love was just taking what you wanted. And so I took Rose's kindness, her gentleness, for myself. Fascinating. Absolutely fascinating, Isabella giggled. It makes perfect sense that a dysfunctional family like this would all fall for a dysfunctional person like you. So interesting. All my hard work setting you all up wasn't in vain. People who live for drama are the worst, I thought. Midnight. We were all back at the dining room table. The atmosphere was so cold it felt like it could freeze solid. Did you ever like me, even a little? Lily asked, her voice thick with tears. I shook my head. It's okay. I don't blame you, she sobbed, wiping at her eyes. I know you were just trying to protect me from getting hurt by other guys. No one else spoke. Rose, the one person who had every right to be furious, simply brought out cups of tea and placed one in front of each of us. And what about me, Mike? She asked softly, sitting down beside me. I'm sorry, was all I could manage. It's okay, she said, gently squeezing my hand. Well, this is boring, Isabella announced with a yawn, propping her feet up on the table. She looked at Victoria and Evelyn. Aren't you two going to fight it out? Isabella, could you please be quiet for a moment? Rose asked, standing up. For the first time all night, she wasn't smiling. Isabella just shrugged, took a sip of her tea, and fell silent. The room was silent again. Mike, can you just give me some time? Maybe, Rose asked quietly. I didn't answer. Some things, you just have to admit, are just the way they are. It's okay, Rose said. I can wait. I can wait too, Evelyn added from across the table. The others didn't say anything, but their eyes were all on me. I didn't want to give any of them false hope. But as I opened my mouth to speak, a wave of dizziness washed over me. I'm sorry, Rose said, her eyes dark and unreadable. But Mike belongs to me. In my hazy state, I suddenly remembered that after my father had shown up at school, I hadn't seen Rose for a while. And the students who had thrown water on me, they'd disappeared from campus, too. After that, everyone else at school looked at me like I was some kind of freak. The world began to spin. I heard the clatter of chairs being knocked over. One by one, the other women collapsed onto the floor. Don't worry, Rose whispered in my ear. They're just asleep. I felt a trail of soft kisses on my ear, my cheek, my neck. They were warm and wet. Mike, I want to hide you away, she murmured. Lock you in a secret room where no one can find you, where I'm the only one who can touch you. Or maybe I'll encase you in amber and wear you as a necklace, so the whole world will know that you're mine. But I can't do that. She stopped, a pained, choked sound coming from her throat. From the very beginning, I knew you didn't love me. so I can't. Her tears fell on my chest, hot enough to burn my skin. After a long moment, she lifted my limp body onto a utility cart and began to wheel me towards the door. Behind us, Lily and the others were unconscious, slumped over the table or lying on the floor. All except Isabella. She was leaning back at her chair, and as we passed, she cracked open an eye and gave me a tiny smirk. "I'll find you," she mouthed silently. Rose opened the front door, revealing the deep darkness of the night. She wheeled me slowly out into the night. I was drifting in and out of consciousness. The gentle rocking of the cart felt comforting, like being held by my mother when I was a small child. I slowly closed my eyes, listening to her soft whispers. "We'll take it slow. We have all the time in the world. All the time you need. I'll wait. I'll wait for the day you finally love me."